found out my husband was cheating on a Tuesday. Not in a dramatic way. There was no lipstick on a collar, no perfume I didn't recognize. There was a grocery list. Mark had left his iPad on the kitchen counter, open to his notes app. We shared it for groceries: milk, eggs, sourdough, paper towels, and at the bottom, in his handwriting font, book table at Casa Luna for Friday, 7:30. Tell Lauren you have late client. Lauren is me. Casa Luna was where he proposed. My first instinct was to confront him right there. My second, better instinct, was to scroll up. There were months of notes, hotel confirmations. Tell Lauren conference ran late. A Venmo memo I had missed. For our weekend to a woman named Jessica R. I sat on the kitchen floor and stared at the list until my knees went numb. That night, I did what every woman who suspects her husband is cheating does, and pretends she doesn't. I played dumb, and I watched. Mark came home late on Friday. He kissed my cheek and said the client dinner ran long. He smelled like red wine and a vanilla perfume I would never wear. I smiled and asked him how Casa Luna was. He froze for half a second. Then he recovered. What? Your email was open on the iPad. You got a reservation confirmation, I said. It was a lie, but a useful one. He laughed, too loud. Oh yeah, took a potential client there. Good food. I nodded. I went to bed. I did not sleep. The next morning, I called his mother. In hindsight, that was my biggest mistake. Barbara had always been my ally, or so I thought. For 4 years of marriage, she had called me her daughter. She had taught me her famous pot roast. She had rolled her eyes with me when Mark left his socks on the floor. When my own mother passed 2 years ago, Barbara held my hand at the funeral and whispered, "You still have a mom, me." So I called her, crying, and told her what I had found. There was a long pause on the other end. "Oh, Lauren, honey," she said. And then her voice changed. It became brisk, efficient. "Listen to me. Men get restless. It doesn't mean he doesn't love you. Do not confront him. You will push him right into her arms." I thought she was trying to protect me from making a scene. She was trying to protect him. Over the next 2 weeks, I started to keep a log. It was almost comical how sloppy they both were once I was looking. Mark texting in the bathroom. Barbara calling him and asking, "Did you take care of that thing?" before hanging up quickly when I walked in. Jessica R. was not hard to find. Jessica Ramos worked in marketing in his building. Instagram full of sunsets and quotes about finally finding your person. The final piece fell into place on a Sunday. We were supposed to have family dinner at Barbara's house. I was running late from the store, so I let myself in with my key. I heard voices in the kitchen. Mark and Barbara. "She's getting suspicious," Mark was saying. "Then you need to be more careful," Barbara snapped. "I told you Casa Luna was too obvious. And stop leaving your iPad around like a teenager. Do you want to end up divorced? Do you know what that would cost you?" "I told you. I will end it with Jessica after the promotion. You will end it when I tell you to end it. That girl is temporary. Your wife is stable. She makes a good home. She has a good job. She doesn't ask too many questions. You do not blow that up for a girl in a tight dress. You hear me?" Mark mumbled something compliant. I stood in the hallway holding a store-bought apple pie, and something cold and quiet settled in my chest. It was not heartbreak anymore. It was clarity. My mother-in-law had not just known. She had been coaching him. She was his accomplice, his manager, his cleanup crew. The woman who called me daughter was helping her son have an affair in a way that would preserve his comfortable life. I walked in, smiled, set the pie down. "Sorry, I am late. Traffic." Barbara hugged me like nothing had happened. That night, I stopped crying. I started planning. If Barbara wanted to talk about not blowing up a stable life, we should talk about stable lives. Because Barbara's entire identity was built on one. She was the pillar of her church group, the perfect widow who had raised a perfect son after her husband died young. She volunteered. She hosted perfect holidays. She judged every other woman in the neighborhood with a smile. Her reputation was her currency. And it was built on a lie. I had heard whispers a year ago. At a family barbecue, Mark's drunk uncle had made a joke about Barbara's wild years in Vegas, and Barbara had gone white and shut it down instantly. I had forgotten about it until that Sunday, so I started digging. Not in a movie hacker way, in a bored daughter-in-law with time and a library card way. Public records are amazing when you know a name. Barbara's maiden name was Barbara Klein. Before she was Barbara Miller, respectable widow from the suburbs, she had lived in Nevada for 3 years in her early 20s. I paid $29 for a background search. I found a marriage certificate from 1989. Barbara Klein marrying a man named Robert Finch in Clark County, Nevada. Divorce filing 2 years later. And in between, I found something else. A small newspaper clipping archived online from the Las Vegas Sun, 1990. A police blotter. Robert Finch and Barbara Finch, arrested on suspicion of fraud and theft related to their employment at the Desert Star Casino. The charges were later dropped to misdemeanors after restitution, but the arrest was real. And more interestingly, during that marriage, Barbara had given birth to a son who was not Mark. The divorce documents listed custody, full custody granted to father, Robert Finch. Barbara had another child, a child she had never mentioned once in 4 years, a child she abandoned. It took me another week to find him. His name was Daniel Finch, now 34, living in Oregon, a high school teacher. His Facebook was public. There was a photo of him as a little boy with a woman whose face was blurred out, but I recognized the young eyes. It was Barbara. I did not contact him. That would have been cruel. He clearly wanted nothing to do with her. I waited for the right moment. Barbara was hosting her annual summer charity garden party for her church, the biggest event of her year. 50 women in floral dresses, the pastor, the whole street. She had been planning it for months. Mark was also going to be there. So was Jessica. Because Barbara, in her infinite wisdom, had invited Jessica as Mark's colleague who just moved to the area and doesn't know anyone. She told me this on the phone, saying, "Be nice, Lauren, it's hard to make friends." I said, "Of course." The day of the party, I helped set up. I arranged flowers, I placed scones on platters. I was the perfect daughter-in-law. When everyone had a glass of rosé and Barbara stood up to give her little speech about grace and family values and the sanctity of marriage, I stood up too. "Barbara, that was beautiful," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Speaking of sanctity of marriage, I have something to share as well." Mark looked at me, confused. Barbara's smile tightened. I held up my phone. On it was a photo of Mark and Jessica kissing outside Casa Luna, which a friend of mine had kindly taken for me last Friday after I told her where he would be. "My husband has been cheating on me for 6 months," I said clearly, "and his mother has known the whole time and helped him hide it." Gasps, a dropped fork. Mark went bright red. "Lauren, what are you doing?" "I'm doing what Barbara taught me," I said, "being honest about family values." Then I turned to Barbara. "And since we're all sharing our truths today, Barbara, I found something interesting while cleaning out your attic last week. You left a box. Did you want to tell everyone about your first marriage, to Robert Finch, and about the police record in Vegas? Or about your first son, Daniel, who you left behind when he was 2? The silence was absolute. You could hear the sprinklers 2 yards over. Barbara's face did not just go white, it collapsed. All that perfect, pressed composure just fell off her. Her hand shook so hard her rosé spilled down her white dress. That's a lie," she whispered. "It's public record," I said softly. "I can pass around the copies if you'd like." I brought them. I did not need to. Her reaction was the confirmation. I did not scream. I did not throw anything. I picked up my purse and looked at Mark. "I filed for divorce on Monday. My lawyer will be in contact. I want you out of the house by Friday." Then I looked at the women in floral dresses, at the pastor, at Jessica, who was trying to disappear into the hydrangeas. "Thank you all for coming. Enjoy the scones." I walked out of that garden, and I have never felt lighter in my life. The fallout was exactly what you would expect. Mark begged, then blamed, then begged again. I did not answer. Barbara called me 20 times, leaving messages that swung between apologies and threats. The church group quietly stopped inviting her to host. The story spread through the suburb like wildfire. 2 months later, I got a Facebook message. It was from Daniel. He said, "I don't know you, but thank you. My dad told me she pretended I died. Seeing her finally have to admit I existed, it meant something." I cried for the first time in weeks. I am not proud of how I did it. Maybe a better person would have taken the high road, quietly divorced, and moved on. But I was tired of being the quiet girl who kept everyone else's secrets while they ruined my life in the background.